Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be another reading vlog. This video is going to just be a realistic reading week in my life. Obviously, if you've seen the title, I work 40-hour weeks. My work hours are 6:30 to 2:30 every day, so it is 2:45. I left early today, which it might actually be closer to like a 35-hour week, depending on how it works out, because this next week is my last week at my current job. So this is actually going to be really interesting to see how much I read in a week with these hours and when I leave the house, because my job after that will be a work from home job with completely different hours. So this is going to be interesting because it's one of my last weeks here and I haven't even done one of these. So I'm curious how it will go. But currently I wake up in the morning, I work out, I go to work, I come home, I kind of chill for like an hour, walk the dogs, and then I spend my evenings, most evenings, reading. I would say I read for at least an hour every day, usually more, but I'm curious to see what it actually looks like when I work it out and keep track of it. So we're starting on a Monday. Today is Monday. Just got home from work, like I said. I usually will have a coffee when I get home most days, but starting next week I'd like to not do that ever, so I'm gonna start weaning myself off now. I did have 2 cups of tea at work, so I feel like I've had enough beverages anyway. This will just be a realistic week in my life of how much I read. I will for sure track like the times that I'm reading and how long I read for. I'm not sure about like pages. I don't know. I haven't totally decided yet. I definitely read less during the week when I'm not challenging myself to read a certain amount of books for a video. I'm just going to read for fun when I feel like it and when I have time. This is a busy week. Tomorrow night is date night, which is budget date because we do that at the beginning of every month for the previous month. So we're doing that tomorrow night. And Thursday's volleyball. Friday, I'm trying to make plans with my sister because we buddy read a book in March and we haven't met to talk about it yet. And then Saturday, we have like an afternoon into the evening potluck situation. So I am very busy this week. So I'm curious how this will go and how much reading I will realistically get done. It all depends on the books and if I'm loving them. So I'm going to try to pick good books that I want to read so I don't get into a slump. I ended off February with some sad books, so that's kind of sad. So I'd like to start off strong. So we're going to start with Between Us by Valerie McFarlane. I have read just last night by her and I absolutely loved it. I was expecting a rom-com at the time and I would say that's not what it is. It's more general fiction. So now I'm going in with the right expectations. I am excited for this. I think I've heard quite a bit about it, but I'm not going to say anything until I know. I haven't started reading it, but I will start this, I guess, after I cook dinner tonight, so probably like 6 o'clock. That's the plan for the week, so stay tuned. I'm excited for it. Hello, it's Wednesday morning, and I have been so bad at updating you, okay? I read on Monday from about 7:40 to 8:30, and then I got ready for bed, and then I read from like 8:45 to 9. And Zach was like, I turned out the light, and he's like, I thought you were really enjoying your book. And I was like, I am. I can't read about this man before I go to bed much longer. And then yesterday, Tuesday, I read for like 20 minutes. I had such a busy Tuesday. Came home, I did chill for like 30 minutes, and then we took the dogs out, and then had dinner, and then went for our coffee shop date. And that's where I read. When Zach was like inputting the numbers at the cafe, I read. And I didn't film any of it. So I'm feeling really good about this YouTube thing, you know? I'm just like nailing it. What is that, like an hour and 5 minutes on Monday and 20 minutes yesterday. I am just about to start chapter 20, 94 pages in. This book is really good. Don't get me wrong. It's like, honey, you got hair everywhere. My nose is so tickly now. The writing is so good. Like, it's so good. I've tabbed a lot. I think it's wonderful. I can't handle Joe, our male main character. We are following Roisin and Joe, but mainly Roisin. And it's kind of like the breakdown of their relationship while they are on a friend's weekend away. So in public with these people that they've known for a decade. You learn that they all know each other because they worked together, which is really cool. Maybe things are starting to crack now and everything is not as it seems. It's very happy place. Instead of the main characters trying to convince their friends that they're still together and still in love, they're kind of trying to convince themselves and their friends. But their friends are not so convinced, is what it seems like right now. So that's really interesting. Like, things are just hitting hard, and I really like Roisin, and I like that she's also not perfect. There's probably some fault there too, but like Joe is the worst, okay? He's the worst. There's no redeeming qualities yet. So I'm like, why are you still with this man? Obviously she's saying why she's still with this man, but I'm like, oh, She's mostly, I think, scared to break up their friendship group. My theory is that something else is going to break up the friendship group first, and she's just going to be like, take that as her chance to dump him, hopefully. He's the worst, okay? So he is making a TV show. He has made a famous TV show. I think he's the writer. Okay, so he wrote a really good TV show, and now his new show is coming out. I am probably starting the chapter where they're going to be watching the first episode of his new TV show. And I know, based on what other people have said, I actually haven't read the synopsis, but I know that he bases it off of their life, and maybe it doesn't paint Roisin in such a good light. I think we're at that point now, or coming up to it. I haven't read that part yet, though, and based on what I had heard other people say, I thought that was the bulk of the book. So I'm expecting to get there soon. But, like, that would just be the cherry on top, because he's awful without that. It could just be that he became a big name and became a douchebag. That's what we're at right now. So even without writing this TV show about her in a bad way, he's already bad. So if she stays with him after that, I'm going to question her a whole lot. They've been together for 10 years, but I think the house is also in her name, and that's also, like, stressing her out. I don't know. She's a teacher. She seems really good at her job. Love her friendship with the girls in the group, specifically Meredith. Meredith is a really cool friend. She's like the hippie Phoebe of the group. I'm really enjoying it. The writing, like I said, is just so good. It's just, it punches you in the face a little bit in a great way. British humor, always my favorite. I'm planning an easy dinner. Zach's walking the dogs. I will edit probably for a couple of hours, but other than that, I will be reading all afternoon. I'm going to go to work now, and I will catch you in a few hours. How cute is my mug? I love her. Okay, I got to page 148, chapter 31. It is 20 after 5. I did sit on TikTok for just a little bit in the middle there. So I read, I'm trying to actually keep track of the time, 20 minutes and then 15, and now sat on my phone for 15 minutes. So I'm at, let's just round up to 40 minutes today. I've read for about 40 minutes today. It is 5:30. I'm gonna put dinner in the oven. Sorry, I'm sitting at such a weird angle because this is where the camera is and I didn't want to move it. I'm gonna put dinner in the oven. I bought just a pre-made steak and onion pie that will take about an hour. So I'm gonna edit for that time and then see what I feel like doing after dinner. So that is my update. We are at 40 minutes, which is not long. And I kind of want to finish this today. So I'm thinking tonight, either way, I will do a bath and finish this book to the best of my ability because I am really enjoying it. I'm at a point where it's good to put it down, but I know that once I start reading again, I'll just have to finish it, I think. I should move the camera, but I'm not gonna, okay? Oh, I also just don't have my microphone on there. Whatever. Joe became even more of a douchebag. We finally watched the TV show. I would be surprised if it wasn't 90% based on his life. She is having doubts that that is the truth, and I think that is the truth. I love Matt and Meredith. They're still the best. Gina, I think, is going to bother me, and I'm not sure yet. The other two friends, Deb and Anita, don't know too much about them yet. They're engaged, and he just keeps throwing money at things, and it's very much like Friends. That episode when the poor ones try to tell the rich ones, like, we don't have money for all of these things, and they're like, oh, we'll just pay for you, and they're like, ugh.
Look, it's a nice gesture. It is. But it just feels like...
Like?
Charity.
That's Dev. He just expects people to follow along with his plans that they can't afford, and then is like, well, I'll just help, and they all feel really uncomfortable. And that's kind of their friends' dynamic. So I am still really loving the writing. I will always fold over the pages of my own books if I don't have tabs on me. I don't care. It's my own book. It's going on my shelf. I will tab it later. I thought about getting a highlighter and I was like, you know what? I would love to reread these parts that are my favorite. Her writing is just unbelievable. Even though it's maybe not my favorite plot and not my favorite story because I don't love reading about the deterioration of a relationship. Anyway, that is my update. Just checking in to say, done editing. My video is uploaded. I am now going to read. It is 8:34 p.m. Okay, and I am going to read. Honestly, if I can stay awake till 10, I'm going to, because I'm going into work late tomorrow because I have nothing to do in the morning now that I'm pretty much just training and she's not starting until 8-ish, and I usually start at 6:30. So I can sleep in like an extra hour, which is super nice. So I'm also gonna stay up an extra hour. I will let you know tomorrow how much time I spent reading today. Guess what? I just filmed all of this and my mic wasn't working, so we get to talk about it again. Talked for like 10 minutes and none of it worked. At least I caught it now instead of later. I talked about Between Us, and now I get to talk about it all over again. I cracked a Diet Cola. President's Choice. They deserve it. It's almost bedtime. It's witching hour. I said that I am rating Between Us 4 stars. Anyway, I'm a little bit wired if you can't tell. So, anyway, I finished this earlier. I read from about 2:55 to 4:15. So like an hour and 20 minutes, I would say, today. I read a little bit this morning before work because I was ready early, actually. So let's add 20 minutes to that. I read an hour and 40 minutes today. So actually, maybe it's a good thing it didn't work because I was lying. I read an hour and 40 minutes today. And I also showed the craziness of how many, I think I have every third page folded over in this book. It's actually crazy because the writing is just amazing. So I'm rating Between Us 4 stars because the writing itself, 5 stars. Easy. Love the writing. The plot and the story, 3 stars. It was a little bit slow and maybe not my favorite content. Like, I don't love to just watch people suffer through a breakup. The writing made it so much more than bearable, but if any other person had written this book, it would have been a hard read, which is interesting. I don't have that too often. I'm gonna say, still read it if you are interested. It's a wonderful book, but maybe starting with Just Last Night by Vari McFarlane was the right move, because that story is just a little bit more fast-paced, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more romantic, and it really set up her writing for me to move on to this book. So, great second Vari McFarlane book to read, in my opinion. I think some of my theories came true and some didn't. I do think that at the end, she's a teacher and she is talking about Charles Dickens to her class at the end. They're debating this belief that the end of a story is not necessarily the end, but it's the beginning of the next part of the character's story. And I think obviously that's her talking about this book, because it does end in a place where like you can just imagine what comes next, and not everything is fluffy and wonderful, but it is set up to maybe go that way, which I think is good. It didn't break me the same way that the other book I read did. I think Just Last Night I cried a few times, and this one there were no tears. It was just like character development and some emotional turmoil. I don't really have any breakup trauma for this to have done that to me. And I was thinking I would love to pick out quotes that I loved and read them, but most of it is just like what happens between characters, so I don't even think I can. That's where I'm leaving off, because it was not like my favorite plot, and I'm honestly not very plot heavy. It was more character heavy. Like, Roisin is so relatable in her relationships with her friends and her family and her significant others, herself. Like, it is such a relatable book, but it's very character heavy. So it's not even like I can just say what happened. The first half, I would say you were on a weekend retreat away with her friends, which is a very interesting setting because it's uncomfortable to them and it's uncomfortable to you. And then the second half is just her feeling the downfall of her relationship even more and all of these insane feelings she's having. It's just so well written. So I would recommend, but not first. Read Just Last Night first if you want to dive into Vari McFarlane. Honestly, though, I have to read more books by her to know where to actually start, but those are the only 2 I've read. Currently, we're sitting at an hour and 40 minutes on Thursday. Might go up, might stay the same. I will let you know tomorrow. I am here just to say Thursday was just the amount of reading that it originally was, which was what? An hour and 40 minutes. Yesterday was Friday, and I didn't read a thing. I was so busy, and it was like I would only get 20 minutes into a book, and I knew it, and I was like, if it's not a great book, I'm not going to want to pick it up tomorrow, and if it's really good, I'm going to not go to sleep. So I didn't read yesterday at all. So now it is Saturday. I'm including this in the week because Monday to Sunday just seems natural to me. I don't love when people say they're reading for a week in the video and then you watch it and it's 5 days. So we're making it 7 days, also because I've only read one book. This morning, I started reading The Karma Map, which is on my March, I almost said February, which is on my March TBR. So I started reading that on my Kindle. I got half an hour in and I don't like it. So I'm gonna stop. It seems like a very predictable, boring story, and the writing is very basic. It's not good writing. And as we know by now, if there's a book that's not written in a way that speaks to me, I just can't read it and enjoy it. So I'm stopping that. I'm not gonna read that. Around 1 o'clock, I read for like 15 minutes. I started Destroy Me, which is the first novella in the Shatter Me series. I read Shatter Me last year and now I'm reading Destroy Me. I think it's like 100 pages. I maybe should have looked up a recap of Shatter Me and didn't, but that's okay. It's starting to make sense now. This is from the perspective of the bad guy? Bad guy? Because why would you write a book from the perspective of the bad guy? Maybe that makes sense. I'm enjoying it. So it takes place, oh, if you haven't read Shatter Me, that's a total spoiler. It takes place at a certain point when Juliet did something to the bad guy. That's where we're starting this book, from his perspective. I wasn't expecting it to be him. I also don't know his name because they're all just calling him Sir, and I don't remember the first book. I don't remember if they ever said his name or if he was just Sir the whole time. I'm now trying to remember. Should I look that up? I don't really care. I'm only 36 pages in. This is going to be book number 2. Also, it's on my March TBR. I'm trying to stick to the TBR, as I usually do. We have to be somewhere at 6:30, and it's 3 o'clock. So pretty much the rest of the time I'm going to be doing laundry or reading. So I'm halfway through and he has a secret and we don't know what it is yet, and I'm thinking that will be at the end or maybe in the next book. I'm not sure. It just got really good. He has like a weird obsession and he kind of needs to get over it, but also it's the secret, so who knows what it is. I'm starting to think he's not so bad and it's a cover. I don't know. He has a secret. Big plot twist. Huge.
Big. Huge.
72 pages in. I'm so curious how it's gonna end in the next 25 pages. Kind of just have to sit in silence with this one. That's it? That's the end? What? I'm so confused. We'll reconvene later. I'm so confused. So I went from that to this, and look, more crossed out words. 2 books in a row. That's crazy. Anyway, this is the next read, by the way. Okay, I literally started A Dowry of Blood 2 minutes ago, and this is what I'm talking about by nice writing. This is my last love letter to you, though some would call it a confession. I suppose both are a sort of gentle violence, putting down in ink what scorches the air when spoken aloud. Beautiful. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, I love it. It's beautiful. I'm gonna love this book. I hope. I'm only a few pages in. Who knows? Hello. Welcome to the last day of this reading vlog, which is Sunday. I think I only ended up reading for like an hour yesterday. I did a lot of doom scrolling and a lot of house stuff and made dinner, and then we had plans at nighttime, so I'm okay with it. I was not going to force myself if I didn't feel like it, and I didn't feel like it. It took me almost that whole hour to read Destroy Me. It takes place in the second half of Shatter Me, and I looked it up and it's actually also on the back. The guy whose perspective it is, the bad guy, is Warner. And it was nice to see another side of him, but it also just was very confusing, especially the ending of this. I think it's set up expecting you to just keep reading the series, which is totally fair. And I'm pretty sure these were written after the first and second main book came out. So most people read this after the second book and already probably know more about him. And this was just, yeah, like I said, a little bit confusing because I didn't know too much about him. He did say the words shatter me twice in this book, which is just kind of funny. A little callback to the first one. I think I needed to know more, and I don't think I've written him off as a bad guy. I don't think I've written him off as the antagonist completely, because he is still making these choices. I think that's all I can say without giving too much away. It was like 100 pages, so I don't need to say more than that. I ended up rating it 3 stars. I'm wondering if I read the next books and then think about this one, would I rate it higher, knowing more about him? I'm not sure. Reading it in chronological order as it happens rather than release date, that's all I can really give it, because I left it very confused, and not in like a confused what's gonna happen with the plot way, but in a this was not enough information way. 3 stars for that one. And then I got 10 pages into A Dowry of Blood, and then today I got halfway. I have read for, I think, an hour and 50 minutes today, and I've gotten halfway. And I also hate these pages when they're meant to feel like old paper. I hate that. It really just bugs me. But I'm halfway through this. It is not necessarily what I was expecting, but very good. The writing is so good. We are reading about Constanta, that's how I'm saying her name. Constanta. I'm calling her Constanta. It's from her perspective, and it's actually more like a letter to Dracula, and we only know it's Dracula because it says it in the synopsis. She never references that. So his name is not used, and he is not called Dracula yet. Maybe it will come. So I'm guessing that we're starting around 1200, the year 1200, because she says that they're together for a long time. And then we're in the 1400s, and now where I am, we're in the 1900s. Really interesting. They live for hundreds of years. I mean, they're vampires, obviously. And there's some introduction to new characters. Finally, when Dracula draws a cunning aristocrat and a starving artist into his web of passion and deceit. So it says it on the back. So we have the cunning aristocrat. They are in the book now. And it is an interesting way to add a dynamic, especially because it's her writing a letter to him, talking about her experience with him and all of the things that he didn't necessarily see, or all of the things that she saw that he thought he was hiding really well. And it's very interesting. It's very gothic. It's vampires, right? It's very sexy. It's very poetic. It kind of at times feels like I'm reading a book of poetry. It paints these vampires in quite a romantic way, but like a dark romantic way of he's very manipulative and she is going through things and he doesn't see it, and he's just like that toxic guy that is emotionally abusing her for sure, and she's starting to see it, but she's also, you can tell she's writing about it in hindsight, all of these experiences. So you know that she is now looking at it with fresh eyes rather than how she felt at the time. So a lot of the time she writes like, I remember feeling this or seeing this, and then later it turned into something else. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's really just going through their life and day to day. That's a lie. Decade to decade, more so. And that's as far as I am. So it is not quite 4 o'clock, so I will finish this today. If I don't finish it now, I'm gonna read for a little bit, but either way, I'll probably take a bath tonight and finish this. We will see what time that is. I will end with a bath and reading. I just hope it will be around 7 or 8 that I start taking a bath. So I did what I said I was going to do, and I finished A Dowry of Blood in about an hour-long bath today. I think I have read for a total of like 2 hours and 20 minutes today, I think is what my final math was. So that's a pretty normal Sunday for me, I think. That feels like the most realistic Sunday. And that's usually what Saturday is too, if I don't have plans. Like last night, if we didn't go out and have plans at 6:30, I probably would have read for a couple of hours if Zach's working, which he has been really busy this month. That brings me to the end of this. I will do the math of how much I read for the whole week and put that in here. So yeah, I finished A Dowry of Blood. Around the middle, I think when I did my last check-in, it was getting very polyamorous and sapphic, which I actually wasn't expecting, but it goes with the whole vampire theme anyway. And I think they are now close to like 1960s or 70s when you finish the book, which is just super cool. I am rating this 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. It didn't quite reach 5 stars for me because I don't know why. I think maybe I didn't love our narrator. Maybe Constanta's not my favorite primary character, but I don't know if that's actually why. Just something about it didn't reach 5 stars for me. I don't know if I'll think about it forever either. Yeah, it just turns into Dracula's consorts, I guess is what you're gonna call them, planning to get away from him and doing it together because he is not a good person. Vampire. He's not a good guy, and he's very manipulative, like I said, and very abusive emotionally mostly. So actually, I read the dedication again at the end, and it says, "To those who escaped a love like death, and to those still caught in its grasp, you are the heroes of this story." And it does have a bunch of trigger warnings at the beginning, because definitely if you are in an unhealthy relationship, this book has a host of triggers. Beware of that. But if all of those things are safe to you and safe to read, then this is a very, it's just quite a heavy book while being fantastical. It is always interesting, I think, to see a book from the female perspective of someone who knew the famous person that there's books about. Like, I know Dracula's not real, but you know what I mean. like to have it from a woman's perspective is actually very cool. I did thoroughly enjoy it, and I say I won't think about it, but I don't know if that's true. And I did tab a lot of it, but I feel so comfortable sitting at a 4 stars. The gothic elements are really cool. I think also maybe it was just a bit too heavy on the spice for me. Like there's a whole, I think it's an added section at the end, and I was like, oh cool, we get to see it from another character's point of view. And it was just a sex scene added to the end, which just feels a little bit weird and unnecessary. It was a little bit like an epilogue telling us about what happened to the characters, but not enough that that's for sure what it was. I think I'm gonna leave you with that. So these are the books that I read this week. It was a very realistic week of reading for me. I would say that when I am not tied to a video and trying to read certain books for a video, it does take me a work week, like Monday to Friday, to read one book, and then on the weekend I'll read 1 or 2 more if I'm not doing anything specific and I'm just reading for enjoyment. That's usually how it goes. So this feels realistic in that way for like a busy week where I did see people a few times. I don't do that often. I really do like the comfort of my home, and I'm quite an introvert, so 3 to 4 books is not a challenge most weeks. Next week, starting tomorrow, I will be reading 3 more books from my March TBR, and I'm really excited because I'm going to be reading popular authors that I've never read for the first time. So I picked a few books from my March TBR that I think are very popular books that I just have never read, and I'm excited to. Thank you for watching. I will leave you there. I hope that you enjoyed it, and come back next week. See ya.